It's time for another Steven Universe review. We're going to be going over Off Colors and Lars's Head, so today's a twofer. This is Nick's Nerd Network, and I'm Nick. So this episode's going to be different than some of my others because I'm going to be reviewing two episodes at once. I really feel that Lars's Head and Off Colors, the two episodes really went together well, and they really seem like one episode, to be perfectly honest. So we're going to start with Steven and Lars have fallen into the pits of Homeworld after escaping from the diamonds, and I think it's really cool to see this because we're really seeing how the center of Homeworld has been hollowed out, and this really speaks to the fact that they're having to search for other planets in order to increase their gem population because they're running out of resources, and I'm actually surprised that anything is holding their planet together with all these giant kindergartens. I don't know if the entire core is like this all throughout Homeworld, but it really seems that way. What are the odds that Steven and Lars are going to fall into this kindergarten, this huge kindergarten? So, off the bat, Lars is making jokes. He's being more lighthearted, even though the situation seems really bad. They just escaped from two tyrants, and they've fallen thousands of feet, and he's hurt. But he's cracking jokes and trying to make light of the situation, because I think he's finally starting to realize that being negative and being upset all the time isn't helping anyone. And I think he's trying to be a little bit more like Steven and keep things light. Because he's also starting to realize how badly this is affecting Steven. Steven's shown some chinks in his armor so far. So they start to relax for a second. Lars opens up a little bit more about how he's tired of being scared and afraid all the time. And they're immediately bombarded by flying robonoids that are scanning, looking for Steven and Lars. Now, we notice that when they're scanning Steven, they fixate on his gem, and then they take a shot at him, but they luckily get out of the way. They start running down the tunnels, and they run into a rutile. Now, this rutile has two heads, which is, we haven't seen anything like this so far in Steven Universe outside of a fusion, but they don't have time to question anything. The rutile leads them to a room with three other gems, four including the rutile, or five if you count the rutiles as two, which they kind of are, sorry. But they meet four new characters, essentially, and we learn a little bit about them. These are called the Off-Color Gems. The first one's Padparacha. Padparacha is a version or a variant of Sapphire. Now, the Sapphires we know can see into the future. I don't know if this is true of all Padparachas or just this one, but they seem like there's some sort of defect here or some sort of disability, and she's only able to see things that have just happened. Now, I think that this is really great for the character. We're seeing not just a character who's made a choice to be a certain way. Like, I feel like a lot of the gems that Steven knows have chose to live their lives a certain way, or they've chose to, like, someone to love, and, like, I guess it's not really a choice, but they've fallen in love, and it's things that are them making choices for themselves to be who they want to be, where this is something that Padparacha can't help. She's more like Amethyst, where there's something about her that's not the same as the other gems of her type. Another person that we are introduced to is Rhodonite. Rhodonite is a fusion of a pink pearl, which is confirmed by the Universe, and a ruby. And my first thoughts are, I wonder if this pink pearl is in relation to any way to Pink Diamond, because they talk about how her pink pearl's missing, or how did someone get past their pink pearl in order to get to Pink Diamond. So that'd be something I'd be interested in hearing. I doubt that it's this pink pearl because of the gem placement, but who knows? Maybe all the pearls have their gem placements in their chest. They're not necessarily a reflection of their diamond, but that's getting off topic. So this Rhodonite, she's a fusion of pink pearl and ruby. She was found out by her supervisor, and she had to run away, and she was replaced, so she's hiding out down here. My guess is that the thing that they had in common with their fusion and what they related over is fear, because this fusion, though, looks a lot like Garnet, but is completely different in terms of personality. They seem very afraid and skittish and very suspicious all the time. So my guess is fear is what their common trait of what bonds them together and what they found inside each other that made them feel compatible. So that's a different side of fusion that we've seen. We've kind of seen more confident fusions in the past. We've seen some less stable ones, but this is a different side. We also are introduced into Fluorite. Fluorite is a fusion of 6 different gems. A lot of people have been theorizing about what gems she's composed of. I honestly can't hazard a guess other than I think that there's a couple of paradots in there, but who knows what the gem cuts of other gems are. And she is a really good example of a polyamorous relationship. So we don't know a lot about her other than she's just a super huge fusion. The most we've ever seen so far is 4, which is Alexandrite. So a 6 fusion looks very different, very less humanoid, and she talks very slow. My guess is she talks slow because she has 6 different personalities inside her, so that's a lot to process, a lot of feelings and emotions to kind of come to terms with every single sentence to make sure they're ingredients. We've seen how disagreements within a fusion can tear them apart, with Alexandrite. There's 3 very different gems in there, or technically 4. So we're introduced to them. We're introduced a little bit more to the twins of Rutile. They were formed that way when they came out of their kindergarten. They were fused together. I think that they're 2 separate gems fused together instead of one that's just effective, because each of their heads seems to have its own consciousness, and they seem to be 2 separate or gems. So I guess we'll count them as 2 separate people. So as they're discussing and kind of getting to know each other, they're found by the Robonoids. They come in, they start scanning, and they first scan Pad Paracha, focusing on her gem, and Lars kicks them and deflects them. He starts fighting them off. He gets scanned, and he realizes that they don't stop when they scan him because he doesn't have a gem, and they can't see him if he doesn't have a gem. So he realizes that he has the upper hand. He is running in front of the other gems in order to block their scans so they can't see them. He's fighting off the Robonoids, and then he eventually jumps on the back of a Robonoid and smashes it, and that's the last Robonoid, but it explodes. He gets thrown up against the wall, and then he is unconscious, and then we later find out that he's actually died. Now, this is a crucial, pivotal moment because Steven's never really had someone close to him actually die. I mean, he's seen other people be let down, disappointed, hurt, get sick, or become corrupted, but no one has ever died in front of Steven Universe. So Steven is very upset. He's very emotional. He sheds a tear. It drops onto Lars, and Lars starts to glow pink, and then he's suddenly alive again. So this brings us to the beginning of Lars's head. So they're all in shock. Lars is alive. He's turned to a different color, and nobody really knows what's going on. Steven doesn't even know. He's never done this. He's healed injuries before with his spit, but he's never healed anyone or done anything with his tears. And it appears that Lars has been brought back to life. They're trying to figure out what's going on. Lars seems to be fine. He's just really confused and upset and scared. I mean, I would be too. A lot's changed for him. He's been brought back from the dead, and he looks different. Steven quickly realizes that his hair is a portal, just like Lion's mane, and Steven passes through it to see what happens. When he passes through, he sees the same tree that his mother left him hints at, like the chest and the bubbled bismuth, and he also looks back and sees that there's a new tree there that he hasn't seen before. Steven quickly runs to the old tree that he knows, dives through the grass, and resurfaces in Lion's mane back at his house. Steven doesn't know what to think. He's confused. He then quickly realizes that he needs to get food. He hasn't eaten or had anything to drink in days because they don't need food on Homeworld. So he's gathering up as much food as he can. He approaches Lion, and then he realizes, wait, at some point Lion must have died and Rose must have brought him back to life, and that's why he exists, and that's why he has the powers that he has, because that's what happened to Lars. So Steven kind of has like a quick little moment with Lion, realizing that he must have died at some point, maybe trying to save Rose. And then he phases back through Lion, rushes quickly over to the portal into Lars, and then he pops out through Lars's head, which looks incredibly uncomfortable. I do feel bad for Lars. But Steven quickly realizes that Lars isn't hungry. He checks his heartbeat. His heartbeat's beating very slow, and it's very strange. He's not exhibiting like normal human traits. So it's starting to appear that Lars isn't quite human anymore. Now they start to discuss what they're going to do, whether they're going to leave or stay. Steven's telling the off-color gems about about Earth and saying how great it is. And they've revealed something interesting. A lot of the gems on Homeworld believe Earth's been destroyed. At least that's what the diamonds have been telling them. And that leads us again to believe that there's becoming to be more doubts on Homeworld about what's true and what's not. So they decide that they all want to go to Earth, but they quickly realize that they can't all go. Lars isn't going to be able to go through his own portal in his own head. So then they all discuss staying because they want to leave Lars behind. Lars insists that Steven goes on his own because he's done so much for Lars already. He needs to get home, and he's not safe while he's on Homeworld because the diamonds are looking for him. The other gems decide that they're going to stay behind and take care of Lars because Lars has done so much for them. He didn't know them at all, and he jumped and put his life on the line for them, protecting them from those Robonoids. So they agree that they're going to stay behind and they're going to help Lars get home another way and make sure that he's safe and make sure that he gets back to Earth. So Steven, sadly, he has to depart. He makes it back through Lion's Mane, and he's reunited with his family. And everyone's there, Connie, Pearl, Amethyst, everyone, his dad, Garnet, and they're so happy to see him, and he immediately breaks into tears. So, in conclusion, I really liked both of these episodes a lot. I definitely feel like we learned a lot more in the first Off Colors, and then it was kind of just a really summarization of what had happened and kind of connecting a lot of the dots in Lars's head. I think that they were both great. I'm glad that they extended this into 2 different episodes because it was a lot of information to take in. There was a lot of character development for Lars. He's really come into his own and become a completely different person from the start of this episode. And I'm really glad for that because, like I've said before, he's really one of my favorite characters and he counterbalances Steven so well. And I think that they've learned a lot from each other in this story arc. I also am excited to have gotten to meet so many different gems and see other fusions and realize that like the crystal gems aren't the only ones that are rebelling against Homeworld. There are people there are gems on Homeworld that are also rebelling. So that's really neat to see, and it's really neat to see like different types of off-color type gems. And it's so sad that they feel like such a scourge in society, and they feel like they have to hide out. Who knows how long they've been in those tunnels, hiding from the rest of Homeworld. So overall, this is a great episode. I'm glad to see that Steven made it home, and I hope to see that Lars makes it home soon. So that's all I have for today. This is Nick signing out. If you like this episode of Nick's Nerd Network, please like and subscribe. If you have different opinions or would like to share some of your ideas, please share these in the comment section below. Please keep it constructive and friendly. Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful day.